Well, today is our open house for the community, for those that supported Serenity Sober Living House. We are at 518 Webb Street, and we currently have three women in the house. We have two more coming, but can house up to seven women. And so I opened it up just for today so you guys can get a feel and know what's really going on. This is my ministry. God put this on my heart, and this is what we're doing. I'm helping straighten out these ladies' crown and giving them hope. First Women's Transitional Housing in Jackson. We did our fundraiser at the end of April, and that first month after that, May, we've been going strong. In this home, this is a 4-bedroom. We actually had two houses, but I said, let's start with this one first and let me get a feel of it, and then we're going to branch out from there. But yeah, it's been going good. We still need donations and help and, help these women because they need it and I can't do it by myself. But all things are possible through God who strengthens us, and I believe that. We actually need like toiletries, bathing stuff for the ladies, body wash, soap, toothpaste like that, tissue, paper towels, things like that. We're looking for some women are having a hard time coming up with the payments or whatever, and so if we could get somebody to sponsor them, maybe, for a certain amount of time, like that, yeah. We are in need of a van so that we can get these ladies to and from their destinations all at once.
Grandpa told me you lucky to have one friend. Situations in life coming, you gotta trust them. Found out many times in life you can't trust men. So I rolled solo, that process was an adjustment. Friends let you down, not around when you're needing them. Only here to take like a child, got you feeding them. Better off leaving them like salt, that's the seasoning. Killing black people, that sugar really depleting them. Knowledge over ignorance, rising above predicaments. Fighting for equality, speaking for all the innocents. These drugs they been giving us, turning our people vigilant. Innocent dissidents, violence is coming imminent. Gotta fall a couple times to learn the lessons faster. Thinking will it matter if I skip a couple chapters? This life that I'm after got me climbing up the ladder. Won't be another rapper, bankrupt with the chapter. On another mission to get rich, it's big chips. Head past the crown on solid ground, the kid spits. On another level, these devils can't block the business. The kid get psycho with a rifle, get your wig split. Change the game passively in the back, so happily. Jersey. What's up? Welcome, Facebook. Welcome to another edition of the Community Soldier Podcast. Thank y'all for tuning in, tapping in with me, man. I just want to talk. We want to have a conversation today, man. I don't know if y'all been paying attention or not to what's going on in the news. So if not, I want to make sure that I inform y'all because I really want to have a conversation on, morality, right? What's right or what's wrong, right? Because we in a weird time, like a weird era where we have to question like what's really right and what's really wrong. So yesterday, our new Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, he stood in front of America's top generals at Quantico and dropped what I call like a manifesto. This wasn't just like a regular pep talk, but he basically outlined some sweeping changes. I think there were 10 new directives. These 10 new directives, renaming the Department of Defense to the Department of War, attacking diversity programs, demanding higher physical standards, and even telling generals that if they don't like it, that they should resign. I mean, he flat out told generals like, yo, if you don't like what I'm saying to you, you don't like how I'm saying it, y'all could get the F up out of here. That's basically how he said it. And I was watching all of this yesterday, And I was like, man, we got to talk about this. So today I want to unpack what was said. Let's weigh on it against the morality of things and check against the numbers, right? Because I'm a facts guy. I like numbers. So we want to see numbers because leadership isn't just about words. It's about whether those words hold up to reality, right? We got to see if the words hold up to reality. So first of all, we don't even know what was said, do we? Let's go over what was said. A few points before we get into any videos or anything like that. First of all, here's some just key takeaways that I took from yesterday's speech. One, he said, the Department of Defense is dead. Welcome to the Department of War. The Department of War. He called out what he describes as fat troops and fat generals, saying physical standards need to be raised. He demanded combat roles be judged by male physical standards only, with the words, if women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. He announced an end to diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, no more identity months, no DEI offices, no recognition of minority groups. And most importantly, he told generals, if what I'm saying makes your heart sink, do the honorable thing and resign. That's word for word quote. He said, if what I'm saying makes your heart sink, do the honorable thing and resign. That's the substance. Strong words, but strong words, they have major consequences too. So let's measure it like this against morality, right? Because I told you I want to look at the morality of this, all right? Because we're in a sad time. Real sad time nowadays, man. I don't know if y'all really paying attention, man. But we'll go over it. So first things first, the renaming the Department of Defense to Department of War, we got to think about that one first. Do y'all think like it's right to glorify war instead of emphasizing defense and peace? Because I thought we were in the era of we were done conquering. I thought we were trying to push global peace, right? Global prosperity. So what sounds better for I'm trying to push peace, the Department of Defense or the Department of War? Because language matters, right? Defense implies protection. And if I'm wrong on anything, feel free to comment. I want to know what y'all think. Defense implies protection, right? Well, war implies aggression. So morally, do we want our military defined by protection or by destruction? Do we want to be known for our protection or for our destruction? So right now, I look at in the world right now, we're watching ethnic cleansing of whole peoples in Gaza. I don't know if you guys know, but there's not a single school, hospital, or university left standing in Gaza. That means like the whole country over there, there's not a single school, hospital, or university standing. They bombed every single one, right? Children starving by the millions. Women and children being slaughtered by the millions. We're watching it in real time. A whole race of people be taken out, right? Regardless if we believe in whatever they believe in or not, right? I'm just looking at the fact that we're watching a whole group of people be wiped away, right? They're going to be obsolete if it keeps going the way it is, right? So we watching what Russia is going through with the Ukrainians, right? A lot of war. So now we're saying in America that, look, now we joining the stuff too, because we've been pressing Venezuela about the Panama Canal. We've been pressing them about the canal. Like, yo, we'll go back and take that joint by force if we have to. So now we showing the world that we with the stuff, man. We with the smoke. By changing our name to the Department of War, we telling the world that we with the smoke now. Whereas before we was telling the world like, yo, we about defense. We only gonna attack y'all if y'all mess with us. You leave us alone, we gonna leave y'all alone, right? We got the strongest military in the world. You already know. We got the strongest United Nation in the world. You already know. Leave us alone. But now we showing something different. We showing some aggression, kind of. The next thing I thought that was kind of messed up was the shaming the leaders for being overweight. Like, shaming leaders for being overweight. I know the fitness thing is important in the military, and yes, we need fitness, but that's only part of the thing, man. We need more than just the atypical superhero, super jock, super strong soldier, right? We need more than that, man. It takes more to run a sophisticated military, the greatest military of the world. Like, we need way more than that. As far as this male standards for women, that's just another way for them to keep women out of the military. That's saying that women don't deserve to be helicopter pilots or, you know what I mean, aircraft mechanics. That's crazy because they can't handle the same physical requirements as a man. That's crazy. See, I'm going to let y'all see and let y'all be the judge, but I think we're taking several steps backwards with these type of regulations because we just got to the point where regardless if we think women should fight in combat roles or not, there's still other support roles that women excel in when it comes to being at war. There's a lot of roles that women are doing in our military, and they excel in those roles. So for them to say that now women can't be in those roles if they can't do the same amount of push-ups and pull-ups as me, that's crazy. When we know that physically I have advantages that are going to make me be able to do more pull-ups and push-ups than the woman is. I'm going to be able to run my 2 mile faster than her because I've got extra fast twitch muscles in my legs. Right? I mean, look at any Olympic sprinters times. Look at Olympic sprinters. Like, look at the men's time versus the women's time in the 200 or in the 1 mile, the 400 meters. Look at the time differences. It's because that men are built with a different physical capabilities. So to say that if a woman cannot meet those same physical requirements, then she's not worthy enough to get into the military, that's crazy. And that's going to directly affect our ability to basically allow women to be in the military. And that's what they want. Using only male standards erases the fact that women serve, women lead, and women have proven that they can meet extreme challenges. Some women will pass, but many will be excluded. And that's not fairness, man. That's gatekeeping, basically. See, eliminating the DEI, eliminating women about the task force. You already know what they're doing. I mean, ain't no need to speak on that. We already know what they're doing. But to resign if you disagree. The fact that most of those generals and officers that they were speaking to were a very diverse group of men and women. Some of the most beautiful minds in our country. You can tell how disrespected they felt because basically what he was saying was that we know that the only reason y'all here is because of DEI. If it wasn't for DEI, y'all wouldn't have these jobs. So in order for us to get the military where we want it to be at, we cool with taking some losses from y'all. Because we know y'all shouldn't even be here in the first place. That's basically what we're saying. And then you gotta believe me. Let's check some of it out, man. I wanna hear what y'all got to say. Let's see what the world's got to say. All right. I got a commander. I want to hear what he has to say.
Past 8 months, we've gotten a good look under the hood of our officer corps. We've done our best to thoroughly assess the human terrain. We've had to make trade-offs and some difficult decisions. It's more of an art than a science. We have been and will continue to be judicious, but also expeditious. The new compass heading is clear. Out with the Shirellis, the Mackenzies, and the Millies, and in with the Stockdales, the Schwarzkopfs, and the Pattons. More leadership changes will be made, of that I'm certain. Not because we want to, but because we must. Once again, this is life and death. The sooner we have the right people, the sooner we can advance the right policies. Personnel is policy.
Personnel is policy.
But I look out at this group, and I see great Americans. Leaders who have given decades to our great republic, at great sacrifice to yourselves and to your families. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We would thank you for your service. But I suspect, I know, the overwhelming majority of you feel the opposite. These words make your hearts full. You love the War Department because you love what you do, the profession of arms. You are hereby liberated to be an apolitical, hard-charging, no-nonsense, constitutional leader that you joined the military to be.
Hello, Bobby Jones here for Midas Touch and Valor Media Networks, and also as president of Veterans for Responsible Leadership. The speech that was given by now Secretary of War Pete Hegseth at Quantico today was the most despicable thing that I have seen in my entire time being associated with the military. And I know there are a lot of people that have a lot of takes, a lot of veterans that have takes on this. And this is just mine. Mind you, I'm one that believes in the structure that the United States have with civilian leadership being atop of the military. And going back to George Washington turning over his sword after finishing the Revolutionary War and returning to Mount Vernon before being elected president, it's a tradition that we have had for now over 230 years. What was said today by Pete Hegseth was not even really a speech. It was a failed pep rally. And in my entire time of being associated with the military, I have never seen such blatantly disregarding statements to actual active service members by leadership in my life. So let's go through a few of these things, and I'll show you why I have issues with what he said, while I will continue to stay on him in particular. And you see clips and pictures of the people.
Look at the generals that he was talking to, man. Look at them, man. They was pissed. Look at their faces. Look at his face. He like, yo, this ain't gonna go right. Look at my man right here. He damn near sleep. My man here looking like, what? Is he crazy? I mean, some of the things that he want to change is just crazy. Like, they discriminating on the facial hair, right? So it's been a well-known thing that, like, well-known in the military that brothers, African-American brothers, we usually get shaving waivers so that we don't have to shave with the razor, because some of us have developed those ingrown hairs and they become bumps, like all over your face, right? So a lot of African American men in the Army, Marines, or whatever the case may be, they might get a shaving waiver because it's a medical condition that you can't shave every day, and you'll develop them bumps. You know, you ever see the guys with the bumps all over their face and their beard and stuff? That's because they had to shave all the time with a closed razor, and for some of us African American men, it's just not good for our skin, right? So we were allowed to seek after a waiver so that you don't have to shave every single day, right? And that didn't mean that you didn't have to keep it clean, because you had to still keep it clean, right? You just wasn't required to use the razor, right? You can use other type of shavers and things like that. So with the new regulation to basically outlaw all waivers, basically, they know who that affects. It only affects the African American population in the military, and that's exactly who they wanted it to affect. See, the whole thing is, this is why all of these men and women were so upset, because he was telling them that, yo, because of the Biden era, all y'all black and brown folks and, you know, everybody else that ain't regular American, y'all only got these jobs because of DEI. So if you not comfortable with what we saying, y'all can get up out of here.
People listening, which I find very interesting. They limited the amount of pictures that were displayed from the actual 1, 2, 3, and 4 stars, as well as senior enlisted members that were there, the NCOs. You know, in typical fashion, they were going to be stoic because that's what we are trained to do. But there's one thing looking stoic, is another thing looking like you're pissed to be there. Some of them flew thousands of miles to be there just to hear him give a rah-rah speech to people who have dedicated their entire adult life in the defense of their nation. You don't give rah-rah speeches. They understand what's at stake. Who the hell are you to tell them that? When most of them has almost doubled the time in uniform than that you had. I mean, it makes no sense.
That's why it was so disrespectful for anybody that knows military and military like structures and how we work, right? Like when you're talking to the most top in the chain of command, right? These are the top of the chain of command. These men lead forces of platoons, troops, you know what I'm saying? Thousands of men that are underneath them, right? These are the best of the best. You don't give them the rah-rah speech because they don't need it. They don't need it. You save that rah-rah speech for the men that's about to get a life. See, those men, they get to sit comfortable in the office. They get to sit comfortable in the office while they make the decisions on where, what, and how we do it. How we go to war, how we fight wars. That's one thing that I never respected about the way we do military sometimes. A lot of people do military sometimes. The people that make the decisions, they get to sit comfortable while the ones that are actually risking their lives are young children, are the ones with the young, the brains that's not fully developed. Them the ones that we got out there fighting, right? So when you understand military culture, what he's saying is you don't give the officers the rah-rah speech because they already know. You give the enlisted guys, the guys that's putting their life on the line, you give them the rah-rah speech because they the ones that need it. Not the top of your chain of command. You chewing out the top of your chain of command. So what was that really, man? What was that really? I think it's about something else, man. We're gonna find out.
And after you did that, you decided to go ahead and start laying out some of your personnel policies, etc. And you start out with the saying personnel as policy, personnel is policy, etc., etc. It's interesting that you want to hold people to the highest of standards when you actually committed an act that was in violation of the UCMJ and Signalgate that would have got every last one of the people watching you locked up.
Facts. In the brig forever. If while I was in the Air Force, if I would have taken a video and sent it through a text message or through an email to a family member, somebody that wasn't involved with the military, that didn't have clearance to see what I was seeing, that's immediately grounds punishable by life under the code of UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So our the highest leaders in our military broke the rule, and where everybody else would be thrown under the jail, under the prison, he gets a pass. But that's not his first pass.
because they compromise actual mission with confidential or classified information. But you, of all people, think you're the one that's going to talk about holding up standards. You are the one who is sitting there saying the physical standards need to be this, that, and the other, and we got too many fat people, blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They'll fix that if you give them the orders to fix that. But at the same time, the only thing you talked about when it came to raising the standards in the military was physical appearance. Physical appearance. Let me tell you something. If you're working on a reactor plant on an aircraft carrier, you can do as many pull-ups until the cows come home. But when something goes wrong there, you better be able to flex this.
Facts.
Or if something goes wrong in your aircraft, you better be able to flex this.
Facts.
There's no amount of push-ups or sit-ups or pull-ups that is going to replace critical thinking under crisis. Period.
Facts.
Period. But in your sec bro mindset, you believe the push-ups, sit-ups is all that matters. All that matters. Heck, the Russians released a video about how physically tough they looked before they went into Ukraine. How's that working out for them?
See, so what we're seeing in real time is that they trying to, what he's doing is he's promoting that old school toxic masculinity mindset. They trying to bring back that old school John Wayne, old school mindset, which I feel you. I'm an old school. I was born in the 80s. I feel you on some of it. But what he's promoting is that old school toxic masculinity, the idea that strength only means raw muscles, and we need super soldiers instead of smart, emotionally steady people. When the reality is, when it comes to modern warfare, it's fought with keyboards, joysticks. Keyboards and joysticks behind screens. The era of super soldier is dead. We need kids that can fly drones. We need kids that grew up playing Call of Duty because they know how to use a joystick. The tanks are controlled with joysticks. So to think that we need super masculine guys that can lift 300 pounds, that's just not it, man. We seen what happened to Russia. Russia, they got that. Russia got that. Super strong, super big. Everybody in Russia wrestle. Everybody in Russia wrestle, from babies. Look up the Dagestan wrestlers. They all super strong, super masculine, will fold you up like a pretzel. But yet they go to war against the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians is tearing them up. Tearing them up. Because that's the secret, man, and that's what a lot of people don't get, man. A lot of hood dudes get this confused, and I used to tell them in prison all the time, man. Listen, brains will always beat your muscles. Brains will always outthink muscles, man. Cause at the end of the day, that super strength means nothing when you get a missile dropped on your forehead, right? You get a whole missile dropped on your forehead. There's nothing that your muscles can do for that, right? There's nothing that you can do to prepare for that with your super muscles. So thinking that we need a super force of all these super strong dudes, that's not the case no more. We don't fight wars that way. Wars are fought totally different now. So the fact that he's still trying to bring us into this old school toxic idea that gay people can't be in the military, women can't be in the military, you got to be a super soldier, lift 400, 500 pounds, you got to be able to run 500 miles and all this stuff. Like, that's just not the case. The new way we fight war is totally different. It's behind a joystick. I'm going to tell y'all, I was actually in the military. I was in the Air Force. Smart guy. Used my brain. One thing that I respected about the Air Force was, unlike every other branch where you send out your youngest, your babies, to go fight and die in wars, the Air Force is the opposite. We only send our officers to fight in the wars because only the officers are allowed to fly the planes. So being that that's the case, only the most experienced of us, only the smartest and the most experienced of us actually go to war, while our babies, They get to do support mission. We use them for their brains. See, when you go to Air Force and you send your kid to the Air Force, you sending your kid to be a mechanic, a nuclear engineer, a telecommunications master. My cousin was an air traffic controller. You know what I'm saying? You sending them for a real career when you send them to the Air Force. So one of the things that I used to do, I was in during the war in Iraq. I went in right after 9/11. I was in. So my base, I was stationed in McCord Air Force Base. That's Washington State. And one of the things I would do to pass time while I was a mechanic, so I worked on all of the planes that flew all of the men through the war zone, the C-17, the big load masters. Look him up. So during 2003 through 04, them years, I'm watching thousands and thousands of our babies, young boys, young women, go to war, come home in caskets, like a evolving cycle of it. We had an army base right next door to me, so we would watch. You know, we would load up a lot of army guys. We had a Navy base and a Marine base that was nearby too. So I would watch a lot of the different branches load up and go to war. And a lot of me, you know, we was trauma baby, so we made fun of everything. Everything was a joke. That's how we dealt with the trauma and dealt with the day-to-day stress, anxiety, and fear. So we would joke watching the men and women going to war. And we would see like the super soldier, the big white dude with big gun, like, yo, look at him, he like Rambo. You know he coming back. Then you'll see the little nerdy looking dude. He barely could hold his gun. Uniform, big as hell on him. He looked like he's struggling carrying his 75-pound backpack. You looking at him like, yo, he out of there. He cooked. As soon as he get over there, he cooked. He ain't coming back. And that's how we used to think, right? And then as I used to watch these men come back, that super soldier, they'd come back, but they'd be in the casket. They'd be laying on their back. Laying on their back. Talking about out of there. Super soldier, the dude that we thought was going to go to war, come back, Rambo, they laying on their back. They mama get a flag. Who was really coming back home was the little nerdy dude. The nerdy dude with the too big uniform, looked like he couldn't even carry his gun in his backpack. He the one that came home. And it was because your brains always beat muscle, man, and just overall bronze, man. Go look up the standards, man. Good morning. Good morning, sis. We're talking about yesterday, our Department of War now, Pete Hegseth, they're changing the military standards. They want to make it to where women just can't even serve in most combat roles. They're making it to where basically if you're not a straight man, you know, they're going to make it uncomfortable for you to be there. You know, a lot of the regulations that they're doing is trying to bring back some of the old school mindsets. So we want to talk about it. Because at the end of the day, some of what he said is true. Yes, we do have a fitness problem in America. We do have a fitness problem. And that's a systemic thing. And it's something that we can change through engagement. But it has to be a whole thing. It's not going to change overnight. It's not going to change overnight. The average man in general is weaker by at least, they say, 25 pounds weaker than what we were 50 years ago. So the average man 50 years ago was 25 pounds by average stronger than the average guy today. The average guy today can't even do 50 push-ups. But when you look at why that is, when you understand why that is, then you can start addressing the issues. But you can't just start blaming things and just start thinking that you already know what the answers is when you don't. You don't. You think that changing these regulations in the military is going to make it to where most kids come in ready? No. 68% of young Americans are ineligible for military service due to obesity, drugs, or a criminal record. A criminal record. So you changing the regulations back to where it's got to be more physical. And now he said They can even put their hands on your kid in basic training now. What? So you mean tell me the big 6'4" sergeant, master sergeant now could put his hands on your kid now? What? Bro, you know how many kids are going to be washing up out of the military immediately? Effective immediately. Going to be washing up out of the military. They can't handle you yelling at them. So imagine you start putting your hands on kids. First of all, flash back to 2003. 18-year-old, 19-year-old me, you put your hands on me, we fighting. I don't give a damn. Military sergeant, you could have been the commander. I don't give a damn. You put your hands on me, we fighting. That's a fact. And now you talking about drill sergeants could put their hands on you? Man, you know how much trauma we about to be putting our kids through? They said the hazing is okay to come back now. Listen, those were the main reasons why a lot of brothers was not successful in the military. Like, I was one of those brothers that wasn't successful. I went to prison in the military. I don't even tell y'all this part of the story yet. But I've been to prison in the military, in the Air Force. Yes, because of things that I did. But at the same time, man, when you go back and you look at all of the trauma, all of the racism, all of the stuff that we had to deal with in general while we in there, man, it's terrible. And now you see that they about to go right back to that. It was just starting to get better for brothers and sisters in the military because we were finally getting to that change that we needed. You know, that real change that we needed for our militaries. But now we getting right back to that. He basically told us in that speech that we're not intelligent enough to even have these positions. You're not intelligent enough to have these positions. The only reason you had these positions was because of DEI. Without DEI, somebody else would have been in here and you wouldn't even got these jobs, so you got to get up out of here with that. Listen, I was dealing with that back in 2003. You know what it was like for me being a super smart young black male in the Air Force? First of all, do y'all not even know what the requirements is? What you got to score to get on the test? Let me see. What do you got to get for each branch, right, to get into the military? So they take a test called the ASVAB, which is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. It's basically a standardized test used by all the branches, right? It's used by all the branches. First of all, the Army, minimum score of a 31. You can get as low as a 26 for certain programs, but 31 is the standard. Marine Corps, same, 32. But they got waivers sometimes that allow you down to 25. Navy, you got to get a 35 to get in, right? Certain Navy jobs may require higher scores up to 50 or more. Air Force, minimum 36 amongst high school diploma holders. GED holders need a 50 or more. Average recruit scores in the 50s. Space Force falls under the Air Force standards, same thing. Coast Guards, minimum of 40, which is the highest of all branches. Coast Guard is the hardest to get into, right? General notes, a score of 50 or above places you above average and makes you more competitive. Some branches also consider line scores, combination of ASVAB subtests to qualify for specific jobs, especially technical and intelligence roles. Roughly 72% of new recruits in recent years score above 31. Minimum scores are at disadvantage for job options. Okay, so you got to score high to get in the Air Force. And then you got to score even higher to get into that technical side to become an aircraft mechanic. So I scored high. You know, my recruiter couldn't even believe I passed the test because I went to do the test. I was high in the mud. You know, I was high. We had the good weed back then. It was can't remember what type of weed, but it was good weed back then in the early 2000s. You know, we make your eyes red in the mud like the devil's butt. That was the good chronics back in the days, right? I went and took my ASVAB, completely stoned. I got an 87 on the test. I scored I was just under, like literally, I could have been in a nuclear engineer category with just a couple more points higher. And I never studied for the test. So they didn't think I was going to score that high. But I did, and it got me into the mechanical side, right? But being a 19-year-old black male and telling your superior officer, who's a white man and he's a commander, he might be an officer. Well, he is an officer because if he flies planes, he's an officer, and you got to tell this man that he can't fly his plane. Man, you know how many times I was told, "Hey, go get your supervisor, because what you telling me ain't right." Or let me talk to somebody else because they just don't believe what I'm saying. That was a common thing. Like, how'd you even get here? That's a common thing. Common experience for many people like me while we was in during those times. And the hazing was crazy. So now they bringing back the hazing. He said it's okay to bring back the hazing, right? Because that was just what makes people tough, right? It just makes you tough. My first day on the job, right, we in the aircraft hangars, and we working on the C-117, and my job was to work inside the fuel tanks of these planes, and I had to work on all of the parts that made the fuel go to the engines. So inside of big cargo airplanes, the fuel is held usually inside of the wings of the airplanes. That's where the fuel storages are. Either they have cell bladders, which are basically like a big rubber bag, or they just have tanks that are just self-sealing tanks, right? So my job in the military was to go inside the wings of these airplanes, the fuselages of these airplanes. We would have to empty all of the gas out of the airplane first. So you got a big, huge C-117 aircraft, holds hundreds of thousands of gallons of gas. So you got to wait for all the gas drain up out of there. And then you have to go inside with no shoes on, nothing in your pockets. You can't have regular tools because there's still gas vapors inside the tank. There's still pockets of gas still inside the tank that you can't drain out. So there's still a lot of gas inside the tank. And being that there's so much gas inside the tank and no oxygen, you have to be in there with a full face respirator mask supplying you cold air oxygen. And you have to be in there with spark-free tools, and you can only have a glow stick. So my first day on the job in the military, they hit me with the hazing prank, right? And for me, as a young black kid coming out of I came from the hood. You know what I'm saying? I came from the hood to the Air Force. Like, talk about a drastic transition. And all of a sudden, my first day on the job, I'm getting hazed. But I didn't realize I was getting hazed. This is how it looked. So I'm inside the wing of this aircraft, this big old aircraft. The room is about the size of a living room, or a small living room. It's totally dark in there. All you got is your glow stick. And my sergeant is walking me through the job. I can hear him on my telecommunications, right, telling me what to do. And I'm breathing through the thing. All of a sudden, it get tight and I can't breathe. I'm start to panic. You know what I'm saying? It's dark. All I got is this glow stick. I'm panicking and I'm screaming like, yo, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. You know what I'm saying? I get disorientated. I can't even really see where the hole is to get up out. You know what I mean? Because it's super dark in these tanks. So I'm panicking, yelling the whole time, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. They laughing. I hear them laughing and shit. So all of a sudden the air come back on and I find the hole. I jump out the tank. I'm pissed. They laughing like a mug. All of the white dudes, my sergeant there, he white, and they laughing. They face red as hell from laughing. Oh, we just joking. This is what we do to all the new people. You know what I'm saying? Me coming from the hood, I'm like ready to fire on these dudes, man, because I'm thinking my life is in danger. Like on my first day of the job, like I'm in this tank that can blow up on me at any given time. Like, you could blow up and die in this mug. And I can't breathe, and I'm panicking, and y'all playing a game on me. You know what I'm saying? That was my first day on the job. So that very first day, I'm like, yo, I don't like this bitch. Man, I don't like this thing. I don't like this. Man, I slap the hell out of him man. So my first day, I was already with the smoke because of the hazing. You know, and that wasn't the only time that I got hazed. Like, it was like a constant thing. It was like a thing that they did. I remember one time I was on the front of an airplane, right? We would walk on the top of the aircraft. You talking about big C-117s. Let me show y'all what these look like. Yeah. And we would do these tests to basically like simulate the aerial refueling on these bad boys. And we would simulate how you gotta, sometimes, you know, they refuel these in the middle of the air. You know what I'm saying? They be in the middle of the air and they can put gas in this bad boy. You know what I'm saying? Without, you don't need nothing. You know what I mean? They just do it. So I'm standing on the top of this big plane right here. See how huge it is. I'm standing right here. I don't know if y'all can see. Right in the front, in the very front right here is where the gas comes in. And it's a big, like, basically a big gas pump that connects right here. And through that, we able to refuel the airplane without having it land. So us as mechanics, we would have to test this system to make sure it worked before any plane would take off and land. So I'm new on the job. So they explained it to me. This is the first time you running the tester. You know, trying to walk me through the basics. You know what I mean? The machine that we use to test it, it looks like the boomstick that sticks into the plane. Let me show y'all. It basically looks just like the boomstick that sticks in front of the plane right here. So if y'all can really see that, that piece is actually huge though. When you're talking about on a plane, it's actually huge. It's so big that the tester, it weighs about good 85 pounds, and it looks like a big, it looks like a bazooka almost. You know, that's how big it is. Big, you know, receptacle there. I don't know what they call it. We called it a donkey D. The donkey D. They'd be like, grab the donkey D, and you go jam it up into the receptacle. But it's a big gas pump for a plane, right? And they called it the donkey D. So I had to go on top of this plane and stand on top of it while it's on the ground, of course. They put you in a harness. They harness you to the top of the plane, you know, so you can't, in case you fall off or whatever the case may be. And you have to sit up there and you have to stand up there the whole time while they simulate the test. So the plane's on the ground and I'm actually standing up here, and my sergeant is telling me, he's walking me through. He's like, when you jam the donkey D into the hole, you know, he called it something different. He said, you got to make sure you jam her good. She's got to go up in there. And he said, and when she get done doing what she going to do, she finished, she going to push you up out of there. He's like, so it's going to be a little push. So you got to put your little back in, put your butt into it, lean up into it so it don't, you know what I'm saying? So you can have enough to hold this thing in, you know what I mean? So I'm like, all right. So I'm trying to listen to him and understand. I try to put my little 130 pounds on it, try to hold this joint. So I run the test. I get the test done. Boom, boom. He like, all right, first spring test going, you got it tight? I'm like, yep, I got it. Next thing I know, all I heard was, boom! And that thing hit me in the chest, that donkey D, the tester, because he hit the eject button without telling me that the force was going to really eject this like this. So that thing hit me in the chest, boom, and I'm holding on to it still. But it hit me in my chest so hard, bang, that I go flying off the top of the airplane. Whew. Oh, dangling. Now I'm dangling by the harness, mad than a mug. Mad than a mug, man. Dangling. And they laughing they butts off. Because hazing is okay, though. You see what I'm saying? Hazing is okay. The whole time I'm ready to do something crazy to them, man. They just don't know it. Like, man, I'm from the hood. Like, people got beat up for less. People got stabbed for less. People got shot for less. And now it's okay to do these things. So that's how I feel about that. That's kind of crazy. But let me keep playing some of this for y'all.
If you lack the ability to collect skill sets and to critically think and to be able to apply those thoughts under pressure, then why have a military? That is what has made America's military great. It's not just the physical prowess. It's the honor, the courage, the commitment, and the intelligence and the development of critical thinking that has separated America's military historically. But instead of trying to foster more of that, you double down on divisiveness. You basically say, hey, there are quotas. That's why some of y'all are sitting in this room is basically what you said. If you were black, brown, Latino, yellow, all these different colors of the rainbow, or if you were a female, you basically said to their faces, you shouldn't be in this room full of generals and admirals because the only reason that you're there is because of your color. What? When every historian worth their salt will tell you minorities in the American military that have excelled to that level are usually exceptional, way past the standards. And you actually made fun of the people
Way past the standards.
People who were the first trailblazers to do something. You literally said you don't want to celebrate someone just for being the first. Well, then here's my question for you, Hegseth. Why the hell were they only the first? Are you saying that these are the only people that were good enough to get there? Or maybe there was a system that restricted them from advancing in the goddamn first place. Maybe that was it. But nope, you had the audacity to say that to those people in their faces. And you want to know why no one clapped. You want to know why no one said anything. Because they knew they were being used as political props. And then they were just flat out outraged. The retired generals that are speaking now on these cable news talk shows have talked to those generals that were in the room because those retired generals mentored the current generals. And none of them were pleased about having to be called to listen to that BS.
See? So even our officers that are retired, they're starting to speak out. This is a Navy commander right now who's speaking out against it because we've seen the error in our ways. Like, we know that women can do support roles, man. When I was in the Air Force in 2003, man, I met a black girl. She was in there. We were in technical school together in Texas, in Wichita Falls, Texas. I'll never forget. I was like, yo, what job you got? And she was like, nuclear engineer. And I was like, damn. She's like, what you got? I was like, aircraft fuel systems technician. She was like, that's good too. I was like, but damn, I ain't nuclear engineer. She's like, you was only a couple points off from being. I'm like, damn. But to see a young black girl that was going to be a nuclear engineer, that was inspiring to me. Like, damn, I didn't even think like that. And she had to be exceptional to even pass the test because back in 2002, the military was rough. They called you a fag still. Excuse my language. But they called you that actively. My drill sergeant made fun of me for being black and made fun of me for having my name be Justin. He called me Count Dracula every day. When he seen me, he was racist in the mug too. And every day he seen me, he'd be like, get on your face. 1, 2, 3, Your family could count. That's all y'all can do is count. That's how you got here. That's how you made it here. They would say things to you like your mother should have swallowed you. And all of that stuff was toxic, man. I used to listen to grown men cry in their beds at night in basic training. Grown men. Any men that been in military back then, y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all remember how it was back then? Y'all remember how it was back then. It was very toxic. very toxic. And I was in the don't ask, don't tell days. In the don't ask, don't tell days, they basically said, look, we don't, what you do in your business is your business, but it's still illegal. I had to sign a document that said I was not gay. I think the document said specifically that I was not gay or did not do gay acts. In 2003, when I signed up for the military, I had to sign a document that said I wasn't gay. And that's how they was using, they would use that as a way to kick you out if they found out that you were gay later on. So if you did come in the military and they found out that you was gay later, during the don't ask, don't tell days, they would say, well, we're not kicking you out because you're gay, but we're kicking you out because you lied on the government document. So that's why we're kicking you out. So they would circumvent some of the mindset things, but it was still very much toxic. But me, being from the hood, I came from toxic environment. So I thrive in toxic environments. I'm used to it. It's like, I'm like Bane. It's like I'm comfortable in the dark. That was me as a kid. I was comfortable in the dark. So at night, when I would listen in basic training, at night when I would listen to the other men in there, why did I sign up for this? I should have just went to college. You know what I'm saying? I would listen to them cry every night. I'd be laughing like, yo, these dudes tripping, man. Y'all tripping. Y'all can't, man, you gotta have tough skin, man. And I knew that. I knew that during basic training that it was a psychological thing. I knew that racist dude that was yelling in my face, I knew that the only reason he yelling at me because they trying to make you tough. But I was already built for it tough, so it was not making me tough or nothing. You know? Me, I just realized the psychological mindset of that. But a lot of guys didn't, and they couldn't handle it, and that's why a lot of guys will wash out. You see, a lot of guys that claim veteran status, they only went through a couple weeks in basic training and they got up out of there because they couldn't handle it. You know? It was psychologically harder and more intense back then. And that's what they're trying to bring it back to. They think that they look at the military today and they see that the average military guy is weaker than what he used to be. They're more nerdier, you know what I'm saying? That real strong masculine guy, he don't really exist too much no more nowadays. You know, a lot of men is raised by single women. Like, we don't have daddies out at home making us do push-ups and teaching us how to lift weights properly or even making us go outside. Like, kids don't even play outside no more. You know what I'm saying? My son sent me a video of him riding a hoverboard in the crib. I'm like, damn, man. Like, y'all don't even go outside. My story should be, I'm trying to get it done, man. I need to get it done. Because I got so much that I've been through, so much that I've seen, you know, that I really need to get it done. It's just that I've been through so much trauma in my life that it's hard writing it all. You know what I'm saying? One, it's hard writing emotionally because you got to relive all this stuff, like all these things that you try to get over with. You know what I mean? That you ain't even think still bother you, right? Until you start writing that stuff, then you like, damn, you start reliving it like it was yesterday. And then the other challenge is because I've been through so much trauma, like I have a hard time remembering periods of my life. Like there's a lot of periods and times in my life that are just blank. Like I don't remember people that were in my life. Like I don't remember their names or nothing. Like I might remember their face or something like that, and I remember who they is. Like yo, I might remember certain things, but I forget a lot of stuff from my childhood. So I'm having that like struggle bad, and that's a byproduct of trauma because when you're a person that goes through a lot of early trauma, especially as a child, your brain is not developed, and your brain is trying to develop in a trauma environment. And as science, we know that we actually kill brain cells when we introduce children to some of the adrenaline and cortisol that comes with your trauma response system, that flight or fight system. When we activate that in young children, their brains is not capable of digesting that chemical imbalance. So because it's too early, it creates actual black spots in their brain, which will affect their decision making, their learning ability, and it presents itself in ADHD, which I have. It presents itself in learning disabilities like dyslexia and other things. I was able to skip that stuff, but for me, how it presents for me is the ADHD and then not remembering a lot of situations that happened in my life. Like I have long periods of blackouts where I don't remember things. So that's the struggling part for me for writing my book. But I'm gonna get through it eventually. It's sad, man, and that's where I struggle at, man, because I was going strong in August writing my book all through August, and I said I was gonna get it done by my birthday, but I had hit a wall of like depression because I'm like reliving all of this old trauma, right? And then I'm getting to the trauma and I'm understanding like, damn, this wasn't your fault. The whole time, like, I was like looking at me like I was the dummy. Like, you looking at yourself like, damn, you were so effed up. Like, you the one that's messed up. And then when you find out, like, when you really understand in science and you really understand, like, trauma and everything, you start to realize, like, damn, this really wasn't my fault. The decisions, every decision that I made, statistically, it was known that I was going to make those decisions. Like, the people that have 7 or more ACEs, what's known as adverse childhood experiences, people that have 7 or more are more likely to die of lung cancer. And they know that because you're more likely to smoke cigarettes. And for me, I started smoking cigarettes in the 6th grade, right? And we know that smoking cigarettes is a trauma response. It's a coping mechanism, right? I talked to myself as a kid, right? I talked to myself because that was a coping mechanism for dealing with trauma. What kind of traumas make kids have to deal with coping mechanisms? There's all types. Your parents might have went through a divorce when you was young and you blamed yourself. Or your dad might be an alcoholic. He got mental illness problems himself, substance abuse. And you going through periods of your life where he coming home and everybody's scared because he whooping everybody's ass when they come home. That's trauma. That's real trauma. Or you got a parent that go to jail. You know what I'm saying? You know, she said, dang, I smoke and talk to myself. Yes. I started talking to myself because my stepmother would put me on punishment during when I was growing up, when I was being raised. Because of my ADHD, I was bad. You know, I was a badass kid. I go to school, can't concentrate, can't talk. You know, I want to talk in class, can't sit still. School boring as hell, you know, because I'm already smarter than the lesson, you know. So school boring. I'm getting in trouble for school, so she would put me on punishments for long periods of time, man. And that's one thing about my story that's sad is that, you know, she conditioned me for jail and prison. She institutionalized me with solitary confinement as a young child. You know, my cousin Mo, Carlo, I always tell her a story about him. He tells a story when I was a teenager, right? He came to visit me, my cousin, my firstborn cousin. He my oldest cousin, the reason why I even went to the Air Force. He came home to visit one Christmas, and he was like, yo, where Justin at? And she was like, he on punishment. He can't come out. And he was like, but it's Christmas. I was on punishment for the whole year that year. Like, no Christmas gift, no birthday gift, no nothing. Like, you don't celebrate no holiday. You can't come outside. You got to sit in your room. No TV, nothing but your school books. No toys, nothing outside of educational stuff. That was it, you know. So that's how I developed such an intense, like, urge to read, because that was the only thing I was able to have was books. And I developed a stupid imagination. Like, I would talk to myself early in life. So that was a response of me and my trauma, right? Stuff makes me emotional thinking about it now, you know. So going through that and trying to write a book after all of that stuff, it's like hard sometimes still, because I realized like a lot of the stuff that I'm going through personally in life, I wouldn't have went through that if I was in a different situation. So And I think that's why I struggle with how I come off to people, because I be so hard and I be so like loud and boisterous about certain things. And people think that I'm right all the time. I don't think that I'm right all the time. It's just I seen the other side. You know, I was that kid that got his ass whooped for everything. I got my ass whooped. My dad whooped my ass. He was a firefighter. I had no reason to go out in the streets, no reason to make the decisions that I did. But the only explanation is because I was traumatized, because I didn't have a mother. I didn't have a mother's love. I didn't grow up with anyone telling me they love me. No hugs, no I love yous, nothing. I struggled with emotional regulation. Only emotion that I was able to show as a young black boy was anger. We wasn't allowed to cry. After 2 years old, my father said a boy shouldn't cry if he get hurt. You see what I'm saying? If you ain't really hurt, you shouldn't be crying. So in our house, we were taught that a man don't cry. Growing up without a mother, right, in a home with a stepmother that didn't really care for me, and a father that always worked, I was left on my own devices most of the time. So yeah, I smoked cigarettes at 12 years old. I started being in the streets at 12 years old, stealing cars at 13, 14, you know, being in the streets, making poor sexual choices, right? All of those things is known when you look up ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. All of those things, they can tell you that you're going to do those things if you experience this type of stuff. And that's because there's real science into that. What we do to our children when we destroy their ability to learn, man, we really destroy their ability to learn and to be the best version of themselves. So I struggle with that still today. It makes me emotional because as smart as I am, right, intelligent as I am now, I think about this. I would have been even more intelligent. I'd have been even smarter if I didn't have childhood trauma. Actually destroyed brain cells. Like there's things that y'all don't even know about me that I do, that I have to do in order to present myself the way that I present myself. Those that know, they know, right? That's because of the trauma. Have intense anxieties, you know. Me and my wife, my wife's been through a lot of childhood trauma too. So people see my wife and they think she's stuck up or something. They think she's scared to talk or something. My wife been through a lot of trauma. And when you've been through a lot of trauma, I mean, you got a lot of anxiety, man. We go to in crowds, we looking at everybody. I was in Walmart the other day and the dude brushed up against me by accident. And I was like ready to put hands on him, like bad. Because in my mind, I'm thinking about the Walmart stabbing. I'm thinking about the dude got killed at church. Somebody did this and this shooting happened. This dude got stabbed. The lady got stabbed on the train. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of this stuff is in my mind. And that's because of trauma. You know, you go to prison. Prison, man, that's one of the most traumatizing places that you can go to. When you go to prison, you come home, you just don't be right, man. People don't understand that, man. And that's why I be advocating so hard for our young men, because just coming home from prison alone, changed me dramatically. Like dramatically. Seeing people die in prison changed my life dramatically. I will never steal anything ever again because of that. I witnessed people die in prison because of that. That alone. Then on top of that, seeing the money game and all that was just extra to keep me away. That was just extra to keep me away. But to come to find out, like, I wouldn't even have been here. I wouldn't even been in this situation if it wasn't for things that I couldn't control. Because we don't get to choose who our parents is. And I ain't saying I had the worst parents. I ain't saying I had the best or whatever the case may be. But there's people that have worse. You know what I'm saying? There's people that have worse. You know, there are women literally that are born to fathers that molest them. Sick stuff. You have no control over who you was born to. And the trauma that creates in a person, it changes the way you think, because it changes the way your brain is structured. Your brain composition is changed. So yeah, you're going to make different choices that other people normally don't make. I looked at my son when his first year in the Parkside. And I was looking at him and I was like, damn, this is when I started smoking cigarettes this year. This year, I was running around with Mutai, Wafi, and we'd go to the corner stores in the morning, buy three cigarettes for $1. You know, back in Jersey, you could buy cigarettes from almost any stores back in the early 2000s, late 90s, late 90s, you could buy cigarettes anywhere. So as a young child, I was in 6th grade, smoking cigarettes is where it started. 7th and 8th grade, started smoking weed, started stealing cars, started being out in the streets. I didn't care for selling drugs like too much, hard drugs, because I was a drug baby myself. And I grew up with my best friends. All of us were impacted by drugs. When you grow up and you got a mama that's on drugs, my best friend had a mama that was on drugs. And he would have to hide his clothes at my house and get dressed at my house in the morning because his mama was so into addiction that she would sell his stuff when he go to school, stuff that she bought him. You know, she loved him. It's just that this demon that it had a hold of her, like a lot of people in our community. Or you going to sleep without no food because you ain't getting no food tonight. That's real trauma, man. People don't understand, like, with that, when you're in that situation, they don't understand, and then they so quick to judge. This is why I get so passionate and so upset with people, and people think they take it the wrong way. But you ain't never went to sleep with your belly hurting because you ain't had nothing to eat in 3 days. You ain't never had a syrup sandwich. You ain't never put water and cereal together. You ain't never slept head to toe with 3 or 4 of your brothers and sisters or cousins, waking up excited to eat butter toast. You know, you don't know what that's like, you know what I'm saying? Or know what it's like to have to raise your brothers and sisters, and you ain't nothing but 12. And you got to raise them, you got to feed them, you got to make sure they get on the bus, got to make sure they go to bed on time, and you still got to go to school yourself. Kids going through real trauma, and they're going through real stuff, and it makes you who you are. It makes you what you are. So all of these things that they trying to bring back, it's just bringing back more toxic energy. That's just going to create more anxiety, more problems, it's just going to create more, because these was all part of the reasons why I wasn't successful in the military. First of all, I shouldn't even have been there. I had ADHD and I'm autistic. Shouldn't even have been there. I'm extremely picky, man. People didn't even realize this. I'm extremely picky. Like, when they did that list of foods that you don't eat, like, I think I had the highest number that I ever seen out of anybody of the list of things that I don't eat. And it made me realize how extremely, like, picky that I am. You see what I'm saying? It was because once I started seeing the autism in the grandkids, right, and the grandchildren, even though they're not my children, right, I understand genetics, right? I understand they father that this stuff is in their family, right, and the genetics of their family. But watching it present in children and being a case manager and understanding the science of it, and they teaching me the science of these things, and then I get to see it in real time through the kids, I started to see it in myself. You start to see it in yourself. You're like, damn. So my story led me down the whole rabbit hole of, this is what was wrong with you the whole time. But the whole time they beating the shit out of you and telling you it's your fault. And we do the same thing. We criminalize mental health. We criminalize mental illness. Everybody jumped on my post this morning because I posted a picture of 2 homeless people sleeping on the street, man. I posted 2 homeless people sleeping on the street, man. And first thing people get to doing is they get to talking about, oh, these people make these choices, man, and they drug addicts and they ain't ready to change their life. They ain't ready to do this. It's their fault. They out there sleeping on the street and this, that, and the third. Man, come on, man. Y'all have no clue, man, what life is really about, man. Y'all have no clue what life is really about. Nobody wakes up and be like, yo, I'm going to go suck some D for some crack today. This is what's going down. No. Nobody wakes up and be like, this is what I'm going to be for my life. No. Factors happen. Things happen to people. And when things happen to people and they don't have enough tools in their toolbox, they don't have enough emotional regulation skills, they don't have enough support systems, they're going to make the bad choice. It's just what we do. Our brains ain't fully developed. So we're going to make the bad choice. And when we make the bad choice, then we got somebody on the sideline looking at us make the bad choice, and they like, look at him. He's a crackhead. He's laying on the ground because he wants to. Nobody's laying on the ground because they want to. Nobody's making a choice to be like, yo, I want to. What y'all don't understand is the demons of these drugs, first of all. You never seen the demon that these drugs are in these spirits. Alcohol. It's the reason why they call it spirits. These are strong entities that once they get a hold of you, man, it takes a lot for you to get up out of them, man. It takes a lot, man. I've witnessed the destruction of many, many generations of people through addiction. And through these years of watching people in addiction, you come through the same, like, commonality. It's the same thing. What you see is people are hurt and they get into the addiction because of trauma. And a lot of times it's childhood trauma. Something happens to them early in the game. Or they get a boyfriend, and the boyfriend gets them into it. And then they experience trauma, and then they stay in it. That's how people get to where they be at. They don't just wake up one day and be like, man, I'm going to be a bum. I'm going to be homeless. Nah. Factors happen. And when I tell people that the majority of the people that are on the street are suffering from mental illness, I know this for a fact because I was a case manager. I was a case manager for years here. I worked at Jackson Housing Commission. I seen how Reed Manor changed. When I first got here, Reed Manor was just a place for old people. Only old people lived at Reed Manor. Then all of a sudden, Reed Manor got younger and younger and younger and younger and younger. All of a sudden. None of y'all paid attention to that. All of a sudden, where Reed Manor used to only be old folks, now all of a sudden it's younger and younger and younger and younger. The reason it was younger and younger and younger because there were more younger and younger and younger people becoming mentally disabled, not able to work because of a mental disability that they have, which would place them inside the Reed Manor, right? I'm talking about I was meeting grown men down there at 24, 25 years old that couldn't even operate a basic stove, couldn't even open up a can of Boyardee and put it on a stove and heat it up. So they was just eating cold food. Talking about men without the mental capacity to actually take care of themselves, wash up every day, clean up after themselves, living on their own because of our mental health systems. Our mental health system stopped housing people that needed critical care. We stopped treating people and helping people be self-sufficient. We started taking away resources. And now you have more mentally ill people on the street, man, than you ever have before. If you really engage with these people, you will see that these people aren't ready to change because they can't. They stuck in a mindset that you have no idea anything about. You have no idea about that mindset, man. But I know because I've seen it. In prisons, the med line is longer than damn near any other line that's in there. It's longer than the church line. It's longer than the GED line. The med line rivals the chow hall line. It rivals it because everybody don't eat the chow every day. So the med line is definitely like, it rivals the chow line. There's definitely more people in the med line than there is for the line for the weight pit in prison. The line for the med line is longer than the line to sign up for sports and recreation while inside prison. The med line And when you break it down, you see we housing and we criminalizing mental illness. That's what we do. That's been my story the whole life. So skip to the shortcut. I know a lot of stories do need to share, man, because we do need that awareness and that understanding, man. It took me my whole life to find out I was ADHD. It took 41 years to find out I'm ADHD, autistic, you know, things that we didn't know nothing about back then. We didn't really know too much about stuff. And then a lot of us black folks, we didn't believe in that stuff. Anyway, we like, ADHD ain't nothing, that ain't real, just need a whooping. And I used to get them whoopings, and it didn't change it. I still had ADHD. They couldn't whoop it out of me. all they did was prepare me for the real life whoopings that I was gonna take later on in life. You know what I'm saying? So we have to take more time to look at some of this stuff, man. But just a couple more numbers, man. Let's talk about women in combat. In 2015, women passed Army Ranger School for the first time, one of the toughest physical courses on earth. The data shows women can meet male standards, but fewer qualify. If you only use the male benchmark, you shrink the pool and you lose qualified talents. Diversity and retention. RAND studies show DEI efforts improve retention among minority service members. And since 43% of the force is non-white, cutting DEI may actually reduce cohesion, not build it. Modern skills. The Air Force itself reports the drone operators face higher rates of decision fatigue and PTS symptoms because the job requires intense focus and emotional control. That proves emotional regulation is not a side skill. It's life or death in today's battlefield. Loyalty and alignments. Generals swear an oath to the Constitution, not to politicians or secretaries. History shows when militaries demand ideology. I can't even talk. Studies show that when militaries demand ideological loyalty, readiness suffers. That readiness ability for our troops to be able to deploy, it suffers. Independent judgment making is a safeguard, not a weakness. By stopping people from being who they are, we're controlling them, and it's not allowing them to be the best versions of themselves. The numbers tells us this. So he isn't wrong about the fitness and the readiness challenges, but the way we need to approach it is by doing something different, not by coming through with that old school push-up mindset, like, yo, we got to make more super soldiers. That's not the way to do it. You know what I'm saying? We got to improve the readiness standards for our country. Yes, that matters. But the way to do it is not by shredding DEI and the equity, man. We need more diversity and equity. People hate that word, and they look at it like it's a toxic word, but you just don't know the real definition. That's why. And I don't blame you for not knowing, right? Because that's just the definition. You just don't know. But I'm going to blame you for staying in that ignorance, right? Because I had a choice. I could have stayed in my ignorance. But while I was in prison, I had to see where I was wrong, and I had to learn what was right. And now that I'm learning what is right, I got to keep standing on what is right. And what is right is we need more unity, more cooperation, more togetherness, not more division, not more hate, not more separatism, right? True strength in today's military is not just biceps and bravado. It's intelligence, it's emotional regulation, adaptability, and yes, inclusivity. Because wars aren't won by one type of soldier alone. They're won by teams that bring every kind of skill to the fight. The military doesn't just fight wars. It represents American values. If we sacrifice our morality for appearance, if we trade unity for exclusion, if we cling on to toxic masculinity, the ideas from the past, instead of embracing modern skills and diversity, We're going to build a war machine. But it won't be defending a nation worth fighting for. So I'm going to leave y'all with this. We don't need no army of super soldiers. We need an army of super thinkers, super regulators, and super teammates. Because in this new era of drones, AI, and global uncertainty, the strongest warriors might be just the one holding the joystick with the steady hands and the steady mind, not the guy that can do 200 push-ups. Just keeping it real, y'all. Just keeping it real, man. Hope y'all enjoyed today's podcast, man. Check out this quick interview that we had in case y'all missed it from our girl, Nicole.
Well, today is our open house for the community, for those that supported Serenity Sober Living House. We are at 518 Webb Street, and we currently have 3 women in the house. We have 2 more coming, but can house up to 7 women. And so I opened it up just for today so you guys can get a feel and know what's really going on. This is my ministry. God put this on my heart, and this is what we're doing. I'm helping straighten out these ladies' crown and giving them hope. First Women's Transitional Housing in Jackson. We did our fundraiser at the end of April, and that first month after that, May, we've been going strong. In this home, this is a 4-bedroom. We actually had 2 houses, but I said, let's start with this one first and let me get a feel of it, and then we're going to branch out from there. But yeah, it's been going good. We still need donations and help and, help these women because they need it, and I can't do it by myself. But all things are possible through God who strengthens us, and I believe that. We actually need like toiletries, bathing stuff for the ladies, body wash, soap, toothpaste like that, tissue, paper towels, things like that. We're looking for, some women are having a hard time coming up with the payments or whatever, and so if we could get somebody to sponsor them, maybe, for a certain amount of time, like that, yeah. We are in need of a van so that we can get these ladies to and from their destinations all at once.